Hey guys, welcome to my new movie review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the new Michael Dougherty film, Krampus. Krampus is a film that centers around the myth of this beast creature that comes out around Christmas time. He's kind of like the evil Santa Claus. In other cultures, in the U.S. culture, it's, if you were a bad kid all year, you would get black coal for Christmas. And in other cultures, it's if you were a bad kid, you would be taken away by Krampus during Christmas time. So this film kind of plays off of that, and I'm sorry about that clock back there. So in this film, Krampus, it centers around a young boy who still believes in Santa Claus, and he's having his family over for Christmas, and they're staying over for like 3 or 4 days around Christmas time, and he doesn't like this family. He thinks they're very dysfunctional, and they are very dysfunctional, and he's just not getting along with them. The kids are making fun of the fact that he still writes letters to Santa, and they're making fun of him, and basically he's starting to not believe in Santa anymore. He's starting not to believe in the Christmas holiday anymore. And so he basically rips up his letter to what was going to be to Santa Claus, and this actually summons Krampus. And Krampus is kind of, like I said earlier, he's kind of this guy who takes bad kids away during Christmas time. And he's also, you'll find out throughout the movie, why Krampus appears for certain people. So basically, when you learn that, you'll know why he appeared for this family on this day, and why their neighborhood kind of blacked out, and why they went without electricity for a couple days. And so basically this family has to survive Krampus's menace of all these little Christmas creatures that come at him at the house, and they have to survive Krampus's mayhem, and this little kid has to figure out how to get rid of Krampus at the same time. So Krampus, you guys, I thought this was an okay film. I really liked Trick or Treat, which Michael Dougherty worked on back in the mid 2000s, and I really loved Trick or Treat. I thought it was a nice throwback to like 70s and 80s horror films, and I was hoping Krampus was kind of be the same thing, kind of a rated R Gremlins kind of feel. And we kind of got the Gremlins thing, and we kind of got a little bit of Home Alone thrown in there with the dark comedy. But unfortunately, because it is a PG-13 film, Krampus never becomes that violent throwback film we were hoping it was going to be. There's obviously a lot of parts that work about it, but there's a lot of things in this film that I don't think worked as well as they could have. So for my positives for my positives and negatives of Krampus, sorry about that. For my positives, I thought this film did have a nice horror dark comedy vibe. It kind of felt like a 1980s film at one point in the movie. It definitely has that 80s setup. You definitely tell you're watching Gremlins before making this movie, because it definitely has a horror film mixed with dark comedy, but not too violent for the kids kind of feel. And I think that works for the most part for Krampus. I think that vibe is appropriate for a film like this, and I think that's probably one of the better things about Krampus. There's also some great one-liners in the film. I don't know this actress's name by off heart, but I know she plays the housemaiden in Two and a Half Men, for those who've seen that show. She plays the aunt in this movie, and she has a lot of really funny one-liners in this. The guy from Anchorman who has the cowboy hat as a news anchor, he's in this film, and he plays the uncle, and he's really funny in the movie. Just some great one-liners from this character. You can definitely tell this is Michael Dougherty, because in Trick or Treat, there's a lot of one-liners in that film too. I also like the classic wipeout scene transitions. We haven't seen that in a film in a long time, and I think for Krampus it works really well because it makes it feel like an older film. It definitely felt like even like something from the '60s, like an old Alfred Hitchcock film with the old wipeout effect. It happens a lot in the movie, and I think it really works well. I think it helps the film feel older than it is, and I think that's what's kind of cool about it. So as far as scene transitions go, whoever edited this film did a very good job making sure those editing marks looked very good in the movie. I also liked how Krampus looks and how he walks around in this movie. Unfortunately, we don't get to see him that much as I really wish we could have, because this is a film called Krampus, as it should be. But he does look very creepy. I like how he kind of has. You can definitely tell when his hooves are walking around on his feet. Just the way he walks around is very creepy. He has the little claws dangling down when he's walking around. So as far as handling the Krampus character went, I liked what they did here with him. I also like the great comedic performances that were offered in this film. There's a kid in this film who's one of the kids of, I think, one of the uncles or something, and he definitely resembles Chunk from the Goonies. I liked how, once again, Michael Dougherty has that throwback feeling to this movie. The aunt was very funny, the uncle was very funny. I think I covered that already. Adam Scott has a few one-liners every once in a while. So as far as performances go, they have some really good comedic performances here. So I really can't complain about that part of Krampus because the comedic performances are actually quite good. Now for my negatives, I think Krampus would have benefited from an R-rated direction. Because this film is PG-13, there's a lot of scenes here that feel very held back. They feel very like, ooh, we can't really say that because it's PG-13, or oh, we can't really do this really violent thing that could have been fitting because it's PG-13. I felt like there was a lot of moments in this film that you could tell they just really wanted to go that extra step and they couldn't because of the rating. And I think Krampus would have really benefited from the R-rated direction. So I'm hoping Michael Dougherty releases an unrated cut of this film because I think the film would immediately have been better. I also thought Krampus stole from too many other Christmas stories, not exactly dark comedies or horror films, but just stories in general. There's a lot of scenes here that feel ripped right out of another story, and that's really too bad. I think Krampus had such potential to be such a cool original story, and unfortunately they just steal from so many other existing stories already that it doesn't really become its own film. There's also not enough time with Krampus. They're really, something went wrong with your film when the minions of Krampus get more screen time than Krampus himself. And that's really too bad. I really, because Krampus was handled so well in this movie when he appears in the movie, I really would have liked to see more moments with this character. I thought the ending of this film was very weak. Once again, it felt very ripped out of another story. It felt like they stole it rather than borrowed. With that opening scene in Trick or Treat, that was borrowing the opening scene of Halloween in the sense that it was executed similarly, but it didn't steal that. In this film, they directly steal from other things, specifically the ending. For those who've seen tons of like Christmas movies and read Christmas books, they really steal. They clearly steal a huge iconic ending to another story in this movie. And it feels weak. It just doesn't feel wrapped up correctly. I also thought there were some flat characters in this film, just characters that exist at the dinner table at this kid's house, and really to get to never learn anything about them. Like we can maybe get to learn where they live or how they live or what they're like when they're living with their parents, but there's some characters here that we learn almost nothing about them the entire film. So they're just another character that's destined to get hurt by Krampus's minions, or just another character that's destined to get lost in this blizzard in this movie. And unfortunately, we just don't care about those characters. So overall, I'm going to give Krampus a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's an okay film. I think, like I said, the horror dark comedy vibe, the 80s vibe worked for this movie. It had great one-liners. The scene transitions were handled very well. Felt like an older film during those parts. I liked how Krampus looked and how he walked around. The great comedic performances really worked to the film's advantage, but it really needed that R-rated direction. I really don't understand still why this film had to be PG-13, because it really should have been R-rated, and I think it could have been more extreme than what they went with. I thought it stole from too many other stories already. Really not enough time with Krampus, and the movie is called Krampus, so I don't understand that. A weak ending, and some characters that I just don't care about. So overall, 7.5 out of 10. It's an okay film. I think it's a fine little cult film around Christmas time, but I really can't see this film existing past that level. So Krampus is okay. I would personally recommend it more as a rental than something you go out to the theater to see. So it's an okay film. If you do see Krampus, make sure it's as a rental.